Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of test-driven development in Python. I've already opened my editor, it's Emacs, and we're going to use a, oops, sorry, we're going to use PyTD mon, the monitor for unit tests, and which helps with test-driven development a lot. So first, let me go to a directory called URL parser, which I've created earlier, and where I put the pytd td daemon in there, and I'm going to open a shell and run pytd daemon in there. That produces some textual output here in the main window, and also a little graphical window that says how many tests we're passing. And I will make sure that this is always on top and move it slightly out of the way up here to see what's going on. Okay, so we can now go back to the parser. I'm going to create two files. One which is going to be called URL parser py, which will contain my main class, which I'm going to define as class URL parser for now, and pass just to make everything happy. And then I will go to and I'll create a second file which we'll call test URL parser.py, and this file is going to be empty for now, and but it will contain the unit tests later. So if I open both files at the same time, the one above is the tests, the one below is the code. So what we do is we start from the tests. And now, just to notice that the pytd daemon will only find tests that are stored in files that start with the word test themselves. Okay, so we start with the unit test. We haven't done anything so far. Unit. So I need to import unit test, and I'll define a class, and then obviously I need to import the URL parser file, but to make things a little bit simpler, I should say from URL parser import the class, so that I don't need to write things like URL parser.url parser every time I'm going to do a function, create an instance of the class, or apply functions, or invoke methods rather of the class. Okay, so that's the piping in place. There's still no tests, of course. I'll start with basic tests, basic protocol parsing, and obviously this will inherit from unit test case, and it's an empty class. There are lots of problems in here. When you get a gray thing, there are lots of problems. But the thing is that actually I should do it that way. Okay, so the class was incomplete. There were lots of errors. If we had a look at the shell window, it actually didn't print anything there, because now it shows a lot of information right up here. And I think if you click and appropriate mouse button, it's probably the middle one, it should, oops, actually that killed it. It should, oops, kill it again, not the middle button, so don't press the middle button. Okay, so let me position it always on top, and then I think it's I think it's an extension and I've made to it, so it's not available in standard. But anyway, so we've let's go back to this, and yeah, so if you click on it with the right mouse button or the left mouse button, it will give you the log of the tests, what has happened. Okay, so that's a nice thing about that. But so if we now omit this line and save again, we get all these error messages. We can have a look and find that, hey, there was, you know, an issue here in line 5 of the test URL parser class. Get rid of that. So okay, so pass, everything is green again. Okay, it warns us that the number of tests decreases, and just so that we're aware of that. Sometimes the number of tests decreases because of an error, so we're warned. Okay, so what we need to do is write a test that does test define method, which we're going to call test protocol, and what we'll do, comments are, we create an instance of URL my parse URL Perl is going to be a URL parser which I'll create with some http www.essex.sc.uk. Okay, and we are going to check that assert self assert equal that Perl dot protocol is actually HTTP. Okay, so I've saved it. As soon as I saved, we have been warned that there is an issue. We go and open up this window by clicking on this, and we find information about the issue. Type error, this constructor takes no arguments. Okay, so you know, we're forced to start thinking about our little class. If init init self, so what we need to do is we need to say, okay, it's a URL that we're passing to this thing, and we should self dot protocol equal HTTP is the easiest way to actually pass the test. Okay, I know it's a hack, everyone knows it here, it's a hack, but that's the easiest way of passing the test right now. So if we're not happy with that, we need to say, okay, let's get this to do some work. So def test protocol again, but obviously we can't have test protocol HTML test for HTML protocol, test for FTP protocol. Actually, we can get rid of these commas here. They're not an issue, but we just want to get rid of them. A bit more window here. So we're going to copy this code right in the same place, but we're going to change this into FTP, assuming there was an FTP server with the university. We would expect the protocol to be FTP. Okay, so we'll save it, and now we have a failing test. Get more details, but of course we know what it is going on. We got that assert equal it's failing because the code returns HTTP. So we've got an issue here. So obviously we need to set this a bit more cleverly. And well, the thing we could do is if URL 0, which, remember URL is a string, is an H, then do that. Else, if it isn't an H, do FTP. That will make the code pass again. Well, you might say, well, wait a minute, and what about other protocols? Okay, so we need to. If you want to put the functionality in there, you need to have a test for it. That's the thing. So test FTP test other protocol. We call it the W16WX protocol on some.site.com. And here we should have W61XW as the return value. And of course we don't have that because we haven't done our homework properly here. So, okay, so we're now forced to take some proper action here. So we need to split the URL, split where the double slash is, because that divides the code, the protocol from the rest of the URL. So we'll call it protocol, and it returns two things. It splits this list containing two elements, so we'll assign them protocol and then the rest. Call it rest for now. And so all we need to do here is probably to say protocol, to store protocol in the member variable. And are we passing? Oh, no, we're not. And the reason is that there is obviously also a colon at the end of the protocol. Now we're green. Okay, so all of the three tests that we've defined are now passing because we're properly dividing up the protocol. So in terms of getting protocols out of URLs, this looks pretty good. Condense it a little bit more. We're passing happily all of these. Okay. Now, if you look at this code, there is only one minor defect, which is that we are essentially doing the same tests, but it's almost the same code. And so it would make sense to do a little bit of refactoring here and say define assert protocol to check that the protocol is actually correct. So if we do a URL and then the protocol as arguments, and we said copy this code, and we said, oh, okay, this is URL, oops, and then the result, the expected protocol should be, so this is the input, and this is the output of this test in some sense. So we have we expected this protocol, and so now we're going to test this refactoring. So I've defined a specialized test that checks for that the protocol returned by my code is actually correct. Okay, so all we need to do is to do a self.assert. Actually, we define it as a method. Self assert protocol of these should be the same as. So we expect the protocol to be HTTP on this URL. Let's test this. Oh, it works there. So we're going to do the propagate the refactoring self assert protocol, and that should be to do this, and also self assert protocol, that should be that. Okay, so the tests are now not only introduced and fulfilled by code, but also they've been refactored. Okay, so we want to add, of course, more functionality. It's not just a question of protocols. So we need to introduce a new class that will test for the site, the website. Basic protocol parsing, basic site parsing. Okay, so we need to pass, okay, to make sure that everything is green again, right? So we start with defining a test. Test site without path. Okay, self. So the purpose here is to do something like check that something like this, self assert site. We would like that if I give the URL, okay, what is it? Let's copy this one. Then it will return www.essex.se. Of course, this will fail because I've not defined a search site. Okay, of course, a search site is going to be looking very much like a cert protocol. Cert site will be expected site, and I do parse the URL, get the site, and I should compare it with the expected site. Now that test is saved, but the test doesn't go green because, of course, there is no parsing of the site, and as when I create the instance of URL parser. So we need to do that, and of course the site is here buried in the rest. So we could say this is the site, or the site and the path. Okay. But how do we find the site? Well, we could split again. So if we do site and path dot split, and then split at the first slash, that should produce what we need. So it will actually produce a list containing the elements. Now, at the moment, I just want to do a quick, dirty solution, implement the quick, dirty solution to the problem. So self dot site will be just like the first element of the list returned by this function, and that will do for now because we don't have anything more complicated here. We're testing site without path. But as soon as I start adding another test, so I test site with one slash with simple path, and that will be home.html or something, should produce same result. Okay, and that works. Now, however, when I do with complex path, in other words, I'll have the the tsee/home, and that should actually still work. Okay, so everything seems to be working fine from the point of view of the website. Now the question is now, okay, so that everything is cool. Now is a question of defining, okay, can I now find the path? Basic path parsing. Okay, so it fails, pass is. Okay, so everything is good again, but of course I need to start implementing things. So what I want is something similar to this stuff, so I'm going to copy that just for a minute. I'll have an assert path, URL expected path. I'll get the expected path and against the expected path. So that's good. And then test path, test empty path first. Okay, so what that means is something like this URL, there is no path, there is no slash in fact. So this should return the empty path if everything works well. Okay, so let's have a look at the code. You know, where the issue is that obviously we haven't set the path. Okay, so in principle, self.path could be something like the rest of this list. So I'll define a site and path list equals this thing, and then here I'll take site and path list, the first element, and here I mean I could do site and path list the second element, but that won't satisfy the thing, because with when you have an empty list, when you have a URL of the form www.essex.sc.uk with nothing attached, and the path should be just the empty string, and the list, the site and path list, will only contain one element, the element of position 0. So I mean, in principle we should have something like if length of site and path list is bigger than 1, then do this, else do set path equals da. Okay, now we've got extraneous code in here. Self. Okay, there you go. So we still have a failing test. We can go and have a look. Let's go assert site. Okay, so we did. There was a mistake. I used assert site instead of assert path here. You can see how the code and the tests are checking each other. So we're green again. Okay, so the empty path with a slash. Okay, so that should also be empty. That's it. Is it empty? Yes, still empty. Okay, empty path with one word. Homework is boring. Homework. Well, I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. Okay, and so that's good. So we're still passing. So obviously the code we produce is great, isn't it? With multiple folders with sub folders. Okay, let's try this one. They should just be homework slash. Does it work? Oops, no, it doesn't. And or even joy txt joy.txt. Okay, so this is a fill-in test. We can get information here about what's going on. Actually, the result is just we're returning homework, not homework.joy, etc. And how come? Well, I mean, let me shorten this .com so that it all fits. Oops, it all fits in one line here. Yeah, well, the problem is that we have not implemented things properly here. So if there are multiple slashes, the list could contain the site and path list will contain first thing as the site, but then there will be the various bits that have been split. So rather than doing this, we should recompose those bits into one list, and that requires a so taking the elements from the second, third, etc., and then doing a join with a slash, which essentially take the elements of the list and rejoin them. Okay, so let's have a look what's wrong this case. I'm sorry, didn't see it coming. Let's have a look. Oh, that's not join. Okay, yeah. It's yeah, I'm sorry. This is it's rather you apply join to a string. Okay, so that's what you join. You join that way. Okay, so all tests are green now. Now the question is, what would join return if there was an empty list? So in other words, we could try to remove this and see if we pass. Oh yes, we pass. So actually, we're now green with 10 tests, and there is no reason to believe this wouldn't work with some other protocol, etc., etc. I mean, it's just we've tested it thoroughly, and now of course there are always minor improvements that one can make. In this case, there is more test code than an actual real code in here. It's kind of amazing, but yet, if you don't test, you wouldn't be able to know whether you've done things properly. Of course, as you can see that it would be possible to refactor this code a little bit more. For example, you could avoid using the temporary variable protocol and self protocol here. And if you save and the tests are green, then that's good. The other thing is we could perhaps find ways of renaming variables in a slightly more meaningful ways, and etc. But I mean, and also there might be a way of actually splitting only to the first instance. In fact, now I'm going to take a short break to check if that's the case. Yes, a quick Google search found that actually it is possible to say do it maximally one time, which would mean that a site path list would become unnecessary as a variable, because we would always obtain a two-element thing, site.path, from this. Now I'm going to save and see if it. No, it's oh, not site, self.path. Are we green? No. Okay, so the issue is, of course, that sometimes the list is still it's got still only one element. So click here, probably be cases, more than one value to unpack. Yes, so this trick doesn't quite work as well as I was hoping it would. Now we can always do a sequence of undos and get green again, of course. Anyway, this is the end of this demonstration.